now that we've gone over what it means to be base 5, let's go back and forth between base 5 and our base, which is base 10. So base 10 is what we're used to seeing. Now we're going to reuse these symbols, but they're going to mean slightly different things. So just to remind everybody what we went over in the last video, base 5 has 5 single digits. Then we have to start reusing them. So 1 0 means 1 rod and 0 ones. Then 1 rod, 1 ones. 1 rod, 2 ones. 1 rod, 3 ones. And then we would eventually have 2 rods. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4. The fifth number is going to look like 1 0. It doesn't mean 10. It still means 5 because it's the fifth number. Then 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th. If you think about it, 1 rod has 5 in it, plus 4 gives me 9. So it's the 9th number. So I want to be able to know that this 1 4 means 9. So I need to go back and forth between the base 5 and base 10. So to do that, I'm going to use expanded form. Just like we saw in base 10 where we had this expanded form with the exponents, I'm going to use that same thing here. Since I'm in base 5, 5 is going to be the base of all my exponents. Oops. I said 5 was going to be the base of all my exponents, and then I did not write that. 5 is going to be the base of all my exponents. And remember, the ones place has a 0 exponent, 1, 2. And I can type that directly in the calculator, or I can reduce it down a little bit. So this first place is the ones place, then the fives place, then the 25s place. Just like normally we call this the ones place, the tens place, and the hundreds place. 10 squared is 100, 5 squared is 25. Not a coincidence. I'm going to type that all the way in and get 74. I've got another one for us to practice down here below. All right, so again, I'm in base 5, so I'm going to put a 5 for all the bases of my exponent. If you don't want to put the 0 there because you know it's not going to affect the problem, that's fine. Just make sure when you do your exponents, 0, 1, 2, 3. Don't forget that 0 and that one that skips. Again, you can type this in all the way as it is, or if you want to reduce it down before you type it in, you can. Again, ones place, fives place, 25s place, 125s place. Because 5 cubes 125, just like 10 cubed is 1,000, and we call that the thousands place. I would type this in, and I would get 426. All right, anytime we're going to base 10, we have to use that expanded form. And I've got some for you guys to practice on the next video. I know you need practice for these, but I think it's good to see like 2 iterations before you have practice, so you will get some. I can also go from our base, which is base 10, to base 5. So that's the opposite direction. So I'm going to do the opposite of expanded form. So instead of multiplying here, I'm going to divide. And my math lab actually shows the division. I don't like long division. So I'm going to do subtracting. And we're going to see as we go through chapter 3 that if we have to subtract over and over again, repeated subtraction is division. So I'm kind of skirting around having to do the division here. Again, you're going to get some practice in just a few minutes. But just let me work through a couple of these so you can see. We are worrying about this base 5. So I'm just going to come over and I'm going to write some exponents for base 5 because I don't know all of them. Anything to the 0 power is 1. 5 to the first is 5. 5 squared is 25. You might have to type some of these other ones in, and that's perfectly fine. You do not have to have them memorized. But so I don't have to come up with them in my head, I'm just going to kind of sketch these off to the side. Now, I want to get as close to 824 as I can without going over. You can't go over it. So that means I'm going to be at the 5 to the 4th, which was 625. So I'm going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 place values. This tells me how many place values I'm going to have. I'm going to start with 824, and it's a lot easier to start big. I'm going to subtract, like I said, as close to 824 as I can, but I can't go over it because I don't want to have any negative numbers. That leaves me with 199. I subtracted one time, so I'm going to put a 1 right here. I'll show you what happens if you have to do it more than once in just a second. I've done that one. Now I'm going to go down to 5 cubed. I'm going to subtract 125. That leaves me with 74. Again, I subtracted one time. Now I'm going to subtract 25. Now I can do this more than once. So I'm going to keep doing it as many times as I possibly can. So I'm going to subtract, I'm going to subtract 74 minus 25 to get 49. I can subtract 25 again. So if I subtract 25 again, that's going to leave me with 24. So now I subtracted it 2 times. Now I'm going to subtract 5 as many times as I can. And some people can see, oh, I'm going to have to subtract 4 times because 5 times 4 is 20. If you want to skip that, if you want to skip showing all this, that's perfectly fine. You're more than welcome to do that. But I'm going to subtract as many times as I can. 1, 2, 3, 4 times. I can't subtract any more than that or I'd get negative. This number that I'm left with down here should be what goes in the ones place. So my answer is 11244 base 5. Go back and rewind. You might have missed some of those steps. Definitely rewind and hear those explanations again. And then we'll work another one. So let's work this other one. Feel free, like I said. A lot of times people need me to repeat steps when I'm teaching this in person. So you'd be perfectly fine if you needed to rewind to hear those explanations again. Nothing wrong with that. Same thing. In this 1,500, I'm going to get as close to it as I can, but I can't go over. So I'm going to get to that 625 again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 place values. So what this means is this is going to come from 5 to the 4th, 5 cubed, 5 squared, 5 to the 1st, 5 to the 0. So you can kind of see how it relates back to this expanded form up here. So I'm going to start with 1,500. And I'm going to subtract 625 as many times as I can. This time I can subtract more than once. You keep going until you're at a number less than 625. So I subtracted twice. Now I'm going to go down to 5 to the cube, 5 cubed. So I'm going to subtract 125. And I do that twice. And now I'm left with 0. Well, I can't just leave 2, 2. The answer is not 2, 2 because I have these place values right here. So I have to fill those in with zeros because I did not subtract anything. I had no remainders left over. But those place values are important. There's a difference between 22,000 and 22. So you do have to include those zeros. So my answer is 22000 base 5.